Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Career Chat. I'm Krista Harmon, a workforce development consultant with the Kent ISD, and I'm so happy to have Dr. Keenan King with us today. He is an executive director and a CEO, and I know young people think about business and want to learn more about it. So welcome, Dr. King.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here with everyone.
So one of the things we like to start off with at Career Chats, Keenan, is when you were 16 years old, did you imagine that you would grow up with your PhD and be a CEO? Tell us what you were thinking back then.
Wow, 16 years old, such a beautiful age. There's so much ahead of you, right? I think one of the biggest things for me was um, when I was 16, it was about trying a lot of new things, trying a lot of different things. Academically, I think science, biology was a big one for me, and a few of these other kind of hard sciences. Love astronomy. If you all had a chance to check out the solar eclipse, things like that used to get me really fired up. Had a telescope looking at constellations, reading the stars. Uh, I was in scouts. We would go camping, and if you know anything about the summer sky, when it's really dark, you can see like the Milky Way, and just like stars in abundance. So just with the recent current events, I feel like that was something that's very relevant. But am I an astronomer now? No. It's one of those things that I definitely tried out and did for a while. But then it got to the point where it wasn't like a career pursuit, but more just like a passion pursuit. So, I tell a lot of the young people, don't rule anything out if there are things that maybe your family or people from your background haven't done historically, or they might seem a little weird or whatever, whatever other people think. Still give it a shot. Just see what you might find. You never know what books you might uncover or what experiences you might be privy to. Um, it just really is a beautiful thing when life kind of takes you in a direction of, and you use that curiosity to kind of fill your cup, if you will, like those passion pieces. But no, I didn't think that I would be Dr. King. I know that sounds, I was Dr. Martin Luther King. It was like always this icon, this guy, almost a surreal, not even human type energy surrounding this Dr. King identity. But when I was 16, it was a lot about sports. It was a lot about just doing good in school, going to college, preparing for my transition. One thing that was hard for me was to leave. I'm from Detroit, so it was hard to leave Detroit. It was the only thing I'd ever known. Um, my mom, I was blessed to not blessed to have my parents. Well, one of my parents went to college. My mom went to Western, and so when I got to Western, I actually landed pretty soft. That transition wasn't as bad because I had rapport. So I would say, you have Michigan, Michigan State, you have the rah schools, but sometimes it's about where you'll be most successful. And as it relates to, like, again, pushing me in a direction towards the career I'm currently in, when I got to Western, I was lined up with a work study job, which was a tutoring job. I was working in the community in Kalamazoo, started loving working with the youth and doing the things that I currently do now, kind of at a more operational level. When I say operational, that's like in the schools. So being a tutor, a lot of times I would come in to tutor kids and we wouldn't even talk about their assignments. We would just talk about life. We would talk about sports. LeBron James and his transition to Miami was really big at that time. So it was like a lot of conversations about that, a lot of conversations about what it meant to be like an African American man on a college campus, and everything that can a student maybe from a marginalized background, or I didn't grow up with a money in abundance. I'll just say that we weren't. I wouldn't say I wasn't as poor as maybe some of my counterparts or some of my family members, but it wasn't like I just had all the latest and greatest things. And when you get to college, it's not like where you go to school. Most of the kids in your school, for better or worse, they kind of come from the same community. I was with kids from the Dominican Republic, kids from Kalamazoo, kids from Benton Harbor, kids from California, Texas, and that really started to kind of like it didn't hurt, but it was just one of those things where you start to kind of realize that you don't know as much as you think you do about even yourself, right? So again, getting back to when I was 16, be curious and explore, and you never know what life will show you. And honestly, if you take anything away from this, it's like embrace the unknown. I actually have a tattoo on my arm, and it's about it says "into the deep unknown," right? And that's like one of those things that I've always kind of embraced. Like I know that my dad or my mom or the people I grew up with, they I wasn't around a lot of doctors. I mean, not physicians maybe, but to say someone was a doctor, and that distinction is I'm not a physician. I am like a superintendent or a principal. Some of these, doctors, we are philosophers, if you will.
Yeah,
Um,
PhD kind of thing.
yeah, yeah. But you just never know what you'll find. And to the original question, no,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I didn't
So let
know
me
that
take
I
you
would be.
back because I want to
Yeah.
dig into a few things. Because in high school, you had that astronomy, the sciences were pretty heavy for you. So
Mm-hmm.
was it just assumed, like, was it expected that you would go to college based on what your mom had said? And how did you pick that first major to go off in college? Did you start with a science major then?
Yeah, I was a biology major. One thing that my parents always instilled in me, we grew up, like I said, in Detroit. A lot of people working in the plants and for Ford automotive industry. My whole family, I got a uncle. He worked for 45 years for Chrysler. Um, that wasn't for me. It wasn't. I didn't want to be in a factory. That's not. I had seen that life, and that they were making good money, and it was a very fulfilling life. But it's not the life that I wanted. And again, being exposed to that helped me know that early. Now, if you're in a manufacturing field and that's for you, please, by all means, you don't have to go to college to be successful. That's not what I'm telling you. But there's no way that I could tell you what you should be like, what's going to make you feel like, fulfilled. So I think again that decision to go to college was one that I made for me. And yeah, again, not coming from a lot of like financial stability, having a lot of money basically. I had to invest in myself, right? And I'm so glad I did. It was scary. It still continues to frighten me sometimes, like how high expectations are for an individual like me. But you embrace that. It's not really fear. It's like again that unknown, and just knowing that it's like any new growth. There's going to be some challenges, but it feels so good to overcome those challenges and then be successful, and then to keep
Yes.
keep that keep that going. But yeah,
So,
I think
so
again, my parents.
the
Go ahead.
challenges motivate you, it sounds like. So just to help young people understand, because a lot of young people have stress, Keenan, about that first decision to go off to college and what major. And the thing is, like, did you have it all figured out? Was that a journey? Did you stay in science? Help them just understand and normalize some of that college experience.
I have I, I have a biology major, or I had a biology major when I got there. I switched that to accounting, so completely switched it. Then I was like, accounting's not for me. I don't want to just deal with numbers all day. I want to do general business. So my bachelor's degree is general business administration with a focus on marketing. I'm working with kids. I'm tutoring kids. I'm like, I love this. I want to do this more. I go get my master's. I get a graduate assistantship, which means that you get your master's paid for by basically working for a department at the university. And essentially, I was doing community outreach work through the Upward Bound program in Michigan Gear Up. And yeah, that was where I wanted to be. So I use elements of business to balance budgets and hire staff and do administrative things. But I was actually working in the educational field, nonprofits, things like that, government, public policy. And then my PhD, same thing, it's educational administration. So, do I use my business degree at a business right now? No. But do I have business functions that I'm responsible for as a CEO? Absolutely. So
When did you know that science wasn't it? When did you, because I think that's something thinking that young people, when that happens, when they realize, man, maybe I'm not on the right track, that can be really stressful. So I want you to help them understand, and then we'll dig into what your daily work is and some of that thinking to get your PhD. But yeah, I want to hear that part of your story.
all right, I'm gonna be real transparent with y'all. I wasn't doing well. I was struggling in them bios classes. They were tough. They were not easy. You had to dedicate, you had to go to study time, you had to commit. And I started to realize that again, it was like more of a passion than something I wanted to do every day. And that's okay. But I was a few credits already into what's the College of Arts and Sciences there at Western. And I had to kind of double back my junior year and say, is this for me? Can I do this for the rest of my life?
Yeah, did you have a mentor or somebody to talk that through with, or was that kind of an internal thinking for you?
I would say working at the university. So I was a work study student working with the kids, and I was around people who worked at the college. It's called student affairs, is what it was like. Student affairs in college. It's like It's like your student services people. So like in high school, you might have a person that helps you figure out what clubs or activities you want to be in, kind of similar to that. So I was doing that work and I was like, this is awesome. Like I get to be around kids from my same background. I get to also have a deeper purpose. I'm doing work in the Kalamazoo has the Kalamazoo Promise. So I'm putting hope into a community. They don't have to take out loans, just give it a shot. So yeah, it was just one of those things where I started to really just listen to my heart instead of like, well, it's hard because I love sciences, but it
Yeah.
was like I'm already doing this and I'm so great at it. I can get polished up and actually be maybe even a university president. Like right now, I'm a CEO of a nonprofit, essentially a president of a university, or they're like the CEO of a school or a superintendent CEO of a school district. So just figuring out ways to still feel that sense of purpose.
Well, I think that's really great that you were able to be transparent with us about that because that's real, right? And kids will have that experience oftentimes when they're in college. And the fact that you were doing the work, that you started to realize what you're enjoying. I guess I want young people always to understand from these career chats to do that self assessment, to be asking those questions and not be doing something because it was a childhood dream and you got to stick with that forever, or your parents have something for you, or society is saying to do a certain thing that you have to listen to that inner voice, right? So was networking, I want you to kind of touch on networking as far as getting these initial jobs, like, and making those changes to like upward bound and working with the different youth and becoming a tutor. Was that through networking, or were you seeking that out through online opportunities? Like, tell us about that. How did you get to some of those places?
I would say I've had about 5 or 6 professional jobs. 100% of the time is because of networking. It's about putting yourself out there. Hey, I'm looking for opportunities, or partnering with other like people to do presentations, and then they circle back like, hey, I met a guy at this conference. I think he would be great for this role. Um, you can apply for jobs. I've had opportunities come up like that where you kind of just like send it into Indeed or whatever, and they get back to you. But there's something about the power of connecting with human beings like we're doing right now. Um, it's powerful,
Yeah,
and you
that's why
leave
we
an
love.
yeah, and you leave an impression on people at a higher level when there's some emotional connection, not emotion like you know, wow, this guy said something really powerful during this session. He asked a really great question to this facilitator. What was his name? Or what was her name? Or what was their name? Right? It's one of those things where you never know. And people might forget what you said, but they never forget how, you made them feel. That's like one of those, I think it's like Maya Angelou or something. But yeah, that
Exactly.
is so true.
Yeah.
So network,
Well, that's
network.
great. So I think that there's going to be young people watching this, if they're not live with us today through our recording, that, think about being in leadership. They want to be a CEO. They want to be an executive director. So tell us about some of that thinking of how you decided to continue on that path to get your PhD, and then to kind of go into what your daily work is, especially in a nonprofit setting as a CEO and executive director. Help young people understand the kind of the realities of some of this and how you got there
Okay.
first.
So definitely the PhD. So I was working at Western full time. I was hired into the Upward Bound program as the assistant director. At Western, they had 100% tuition remission for all employees at Western. Again, phenomenal opportunity. That meant I needed to sacrifice time. I needed to spend 13 hours a day on campus. I would work from 8 to 5 and then go to class from 5:30 to 9, twice a week for 4 years. Yes, it was brutal, but I'm out here, right? And if you get done and you start reaping some of these benefits and it makes it all worth it, sacrifice. That's number one. You're going to have to sacrifice something. You can't do everything and be all places. And that's my story, but maybe your sacrifices look different. I know sometimes I missed out on like vacations and things like that some of my buddies were doing. And now that I look back, it's like I could always go back to that place. You can always go back to wherever those destinations were, right? But you that time that your most valuable resource is your time. I'll just kind of end there. As it relates to being a CEO, I think from the time I was a young man, even when I was around various groups of people, leadership was kind of one of those things that I embraced. Even as it relates to my own personal, captain of the football team, things like that would just kind of, I wasn't, I'm literally 5'9", 160 pounds. I'm not the biggest guy. I wasn't the fastest. I wasn't the strongest, none of that. But that leadership is a quality that it's big, and then you'll see people around you who might have a similar story. It's like, yeah, there was always a guy smarter than me or a person smarter than me or somebody doing it. But I work my butt off. They make excuses, and I embrace again the unknown. Is there going to be setbacks? For sure. You got to learn how to take losses as lessons. What are you going to learn from whatever happened that's going to springboard you so that when it happens again, you're prepared? That right there, that preparation, gonna turn you into a diamond, a rock star. Because there's people out here that, like, when I got to college, they had never even known how to do their laundry. They sending their laundry all the way home. They walk around with dirty clothes, stuff like that. Those little soft skills. Then you come out here. Okay, what does it mean to actually write a federal grant for $15 million? How do we do this? It's not scary to me anymore. It's one of those things where we just got to get it done. So again, these challenges, callousing yourself and really just developing into like a polished up human being is what's most important. And then all the other stuff will happen the way it's supposed to happen.
You're laying out some good wisdom. You're being like this rock star role model right now, Keenan. So I do want to point out a couple of things though, because young people, as they're watching these, I want them to do that self-assessment, like I mentioned. And so if you're a natural leader, people tend to follow you, like you say, in your sports, or you tend to be in charge of a club, or people just depend on you to help organize the fun on Friday nights. Like, those are natural abilities that people have. And sometimes they don't recognize that as a special skill that they can then take forward into a leadership type occupation. So thank you for pointing that out. That was kind of just one of your natural bents, just the way you were. And I love the take losses as lessons. That's, I want to get that on a bumper sticker. I think that's fantastic. But those soft skills, and I guess I want young people to understand and really hear that today, your drive, because what made you, and I don't want to go back too far in this conversation because I want to hear more about your daily life, but to have that commitment to push yourself for 4 years, those long hours, like, you think that's just part of a natural leadership and goal-oriented way you are?
No, the deeper, so I didn't like mention this before, but yeah, like I didn't see many people with degrees like the PhD that look like me. When I literally had my first African American male teacher in graduate school. And this guy is actually from Grand Rapids, was a former superintendent in Flint, and he instilled something in me, not because of anything he said or did, but it was like representation. So I knew it was a deeper purpose. It was people in my PhD program that were trying to get better jobs. They were trying to whatever advance their career or whatever that was. But for me, I knew what that was. This is again, why are you doing the things that you're doing? Why are you even on this chat right now listening to me? Right? It's about setting things up and then go taking what you have now and then going forward with that new knowledge. So I think one of the things that kept me motivated is the fact that like I was actually doing this for me and a deeper purpose for the community to which I represent. And like even now, it's funny. I come back to like cookouts and stuff in Detroit, and it is. I'm like well respected. Like I don't have to do anything. Another one for you: hustle until you don't have to introduce yourself anymore. Right? That was one of the another one. Like I literally can just walk in. Hey, Dr. King. Like I'm like okay. Like yeah, they love me over here, and it is. Sometimes it can be tough to live up to the expectations again of Dr. King, but just be you. Don't worry about all of that, and everything will fall the way it's supposed to fall.
Well, we have about 9 minutes left, and I'll have you give a final word of wisdom near the end, and I'll give you a verbal cue on that. But let's talk about, what does it mean to be a CEO? What are some of those responsibilities? And as you talk about that, then we'll have you go into your favorite part and your least favorite part. But what is your day to day? What do you have to do?
So I am the CEO. I'm responsible for pretty much everything KSSN. I would say at a high level, fundraising, development, organizational development, making sure that there's money to be able to do the things that we're doing. We're a community school strategy. So what that means is we embrace the pillars of a community school. So it's my job to make sure that that strategy is embedded throughout the network. I supervise a total of 51, 52 people. And at the end of the day, it's all about making sure that there's a shared vision, so a shared understanding of where we want to go. It's like the captain of a ship, like going towards a lighthouse or heading towards the North Star, if you will. So yeah, everything from contract negotiations with school districts to hirings and firings, some of the nitty gritty of it. Um, Again, organizational structure, making relationships, politics. I do a lot of work in that political space, making sure that we're embedding the community school strategy. For example, when teachers burn out, you can use community school coordinators to help reduce that burnout. So There's just a lot of different ways that this product can be customized to the needs of meet the needs of school districts.
So
And yeah, I'm responsible. Yep.
yeah, that variety, something that kind of you thrive on. Do you thrive on that variety?
Every no day is the same. Even today, like I get to come and do something like this, and then right after this, I'll jump on a different call. We'll be talking about something. And again, the plant. I'll get back to the working in the plant in Detroit. I didn't want sameness. I didn't want standardization. I love being able to get up every day and kind of not know what's going to happen. It is sometimes scary. I mean, some of these conversations could go left really quick, but again, it's not so much about being scared as it is about just the unknown. But once you're prepared, it really it's like Jedi mind tricks. I don't know if y'all Star Wars geeks, but yeah, like you gotta get your mind kind of Jedi'd out, and then you'll be awesome.
Well, I think that is definitely speaking to some young people who like that kind of challenge. They like the idea of having all these opportunities to do throughout the day. So what is your favorite part? What's your least favorite part then?
Favorite part, definitely stuff like this, talking to kids, talking to students, also seeing my coordinators. Those are my staff. I have about 44 of those in the buildings across the Kent County. So we're in Kent County. I love seeing how excited they are to serve the young people, and just feeling that deeper connection to my community, because that's really what's most important is how we leave that legacy in our community. It's not so much about Keenan or KSSN as it is about how well we are doing as a society. So like again, we come into spaces and it's all love. I love that. Like people want us in their space. That's what's great. And then I was transition into maybe some of the dirty stuff. The politics, and what I mean by politics is not like Democrats or Republicans. What I'm talking about is like who likes who, or who's doing this and who's doing it better. Those things kind of take away from the purpose of why I do what I do, but I understand that I need to embrace those and have an understanding in order to do the work that I do. But the politics could definitely it can consume you. But again, you just got to make sure that you understand why you're there, and then all of that noise kind of goes away.
Yeah. And it sounds through our conversation today, Keenan, that representation is just really part of your heart to be that role model, that you take the opportunities to be the role model and make sure, like you say, the legacy of your organization is lifting young people up. When you look at your daily work and managing your team, what are some of those other skill sets that you maybe want to just verbalize so young people can start to hear what other kind of traits you have in your toolbox to be good at what you do?
I would say effective,
yeah,
effective communication, trust and rapport. Trust works both ways. You have to trust your people; they have to trust you. Let your people do their jobs as best as you can. They would if you have to do their job, then you don't need them. And unfortunately, in this capitalistic society, it creates waste. You have to I've always taken the stance that if you don't know what you need to be doing, that's actually on me as your leader. Maybe I am telling you, but it's not in a way that you're actually able to use or do your work effectively. So I need to be flexible. There you go, flexibility. I think leaders also need to know how to admit when they made missteps or mishaps or didn't get it right the first time. We don't have all the answers. That's okay. But then to be like, okay, I'm not going to admit that was the wrong. Now, sometimes you do have to pick your battles. Like it might have not been right or wrong, but it was what you felt and you believe needed to happen. That's different. But to say I misspoke or said somebody's name wrong or things like that, and now you're not didn't use the correct pronouns and won't double back on that and be like, okay, yeah, my bad. That's what I'm talking about. And yeah, I guess the last thing is just again, just like just believe in yourself. Like it's gonna be long nights, it's gonna be long days. Like you're gonna be up staring at that ceiling, worried about the decisions that you made as a leader. You definitely gonna be there. That's because you care. That's because you actually like put a lot of yourself into this. Embrace that again, process it, get the therapy you need, or reflect on it the way you need to. Go work out, go read a book, talk to somebody, and then get right back to it because the work never stops. So
yeah, that was something I want to bring up. Being a CEO, I'm sure it's not a 9 to 5 kind of job, that family life balance. So just give the kids a realistic experience, and their counselors who are on this call that can, educate young people about your kind of job. what some of that reality is of, and maybe what you like or don't like about that.
I would say I try not to work more than like 50 hours a week, but so again, I make a nice salary. I'm comfortable financially. I didn't come from this. So again, even that financial literacy piece was something I had to embrace, credit, things like that. My wife, my kids, I have two kids. One's 2, the other one's 4. I'm always on. It's one of those things where you have to find joy, but it's again these sacrifices. I know that I work my butt off to be where I am, and my family understands that. Uh, I try not to miss things. I know some leaders will miss things. That's okay. I try not to. That my kids are still kind of young though, but you do. Sometimes you're not going to always have the opportunity to be at the things, just like I talked about in grad school, just like now. Like it's an opportunity cost to where you spend your time. You got to make sure you're happy with yourself though. That's kind of what the overarching theme is. If you're okay with it, I mean, if you got haters, you might be doing something right. Somebody go hate on you if you successful. That just I've literally seen guys. I mean, come on now. We all know it's kind of crazy out here, but don't worry about that noise. Just keep doing you. Be you, keep doing you.
Yeah, I think that's such great wisdom because, like you said, if you're doing it right, you're probably going to have haters. So that's just part of it. So, with our final minute and a half that always goes so fast, you have given so much great mentor advice. I mean, I have a whole page just covered in notes. What would you like that kind of final word of wisdom to be to young people who are exploring and thinking somewhere in the CEO executive might be good for them?
Again, just embrace the unknown. Die empty was another one that so don't leave nothing on the table, no regrets. Within reason, don't go out and do crazy things, but within reason. But don't leave no stone unturned. Don't have regrets. Don't be 34 years old and be like, man, I really wish I would have went and tried to get my PhD. Okay. And again, no matter how much money you make or whatever and things like that, if you don't feel like it was worth it, then it probably wasn't. So you have all the tools within you right now to know what you want. You just got to basically harness that energy and get it going in the right direction.
Well, you've been an amazing role model today, Dr. Keenan King. Thanks for being here on your busy schedule. We appreciate it. Lots of love is going to start coming in that chat. Thanks for
Yeah,
being here.
y'all. Yep, I see y'all. I can't get to everybody, but I see y'all, man. I appreciate y'all, and just like Krista can get my information out. I'm right next to Krista and Ken ISD. So yeah, say hi if you ever see me around.